and Yisrael is embalmed. 40 days of embalming. Apparently there's this Egyptian ingredients. And we find something fascinating. The Egyptians are crying and mourning for Yaakov Avinu 70 days. And then Yosef approaches Paro, verse 5. Avi yishbiani lemor, my father swore me, saying that when I die, I have to be buried in the grave that I dug for myself. And now let me do it and return. And Paro agrees because of the swearing. Because of the swearing. Gentlemen, it becomes a national event. Yosef with his brothers and the servants. Thank you, sir. All the house of Yosef, everyone goes except for the children and the cattle and sheep. Okay? Hananel, come, you can move closer here. It's hard to see me, I'm such a little guy. Certainly from a distance it's even harder. My dear friends, you notice in verse Yud, they arrived to a certain place where Asher Be'eva HaYarden. They didn't go through the desert traveling due north, but rather they go east. And the procession becomes even a longer procession. They're now traveling on, as you see in verse Yud, Asher Be'eva HaYarden. They're on the other side of the Jordan River. And there they open up shop for even another eulogy. Not just a eulogy, but it says Mispeid Gadol v'Chaved Me'od. A very lengthy, heavy eulogy with seriousness, with crying. And there they make a 7-day pit stop. At the end of verse 10, Vayas la'aviv Eiver Shivat Yamim. Wow. When people on the other side of the Jordan hear about this, they too, and find out that the Egyptians are going through a national mourning time. And they called it the Avel of Mitzrayim, Avel Mitzrayim, the mourning of the Egyptians, even though we're talking about a Hebrew guy, the father of the viceroy, the father of the leader. Could just make that just a little lower because otherwise we might pass out or dehydrate. Okay, thank you. And then the following thing happens. The burial takes place, of course, in Hebron, in Me'arat HaMachpelah, which Avraham bought from. You're allowed to look in the Chumash. We're learning Chumash. In verse 13, Avram bought the field from Ephron, who's a Chiti, in front of Mamre and other people. And now that the burial's done, we have the return trip. Everyone's coming back. I would assume the faster way. En route, it was a long route. It attracted national attention of so many different people. And now, Pasuk Tedvav, verse 15. Vayiru achei Yosef ki met avihem. Really? I don't understand what's going on here. What do you mean they notice that their father died? The brothers noticed. Of course. What? How do you explain Vayiru? I mean, of course they saw that he died. I mean, do you understand the question? Why is it? What is the Torah sharing here with us by saying that they saw? You know, there are times when the Torah says lirot, and it means the heart, the mind. Let's ask ourselves the following question: how many years have passed for the family being together now?
20 years.
17 years. 17 years. The entire family is together. I'd like to introduce Reuven and Shimon and Levi and Yehuda. What's going on your heart? How have these 17 years passed? We noticed or explained yesterday that it could very well be that Yaakov and Yosef were not together a lot to prevent interrogation of what happened. What happened? What do you think has been, and immediately when Yosef revealed himself to his brothers, don't worry, it's okay. You thought to do this. God sent me on a shlichut, a mission to provide for you. God did this. God sent me this mission. God sent me this mission. Is the conscience and the hearts of the brothers clear, free of worry, free of guilt feelings?
No.
It's probably a very traumatic event. Okay, that they almost killed their own brother, and then he went through such hardships of being sold, and they had no contact with him for such a long time. Okay, he left the area at the age of 17. At the age of 30, Yosef becomes the viceroy. We can imagine that there are some conscious problems. It's not easy to deal with this trauma. Now that Abba is no longer alive, what could be happening now? Now that we're not dealing with taking care of our Abba Yaakov, everyone is dealing with his own life, the 11 brothers, maybe they still have on their conscious matters that are going on. Here, maybe the Torah is sharing this with us. Vayir'u achei Yosef ki meta avihem. Wow, now it could even be a harder time. It could be a hard time for us. Our Abba is dead. Not that they're noticing it now, but here the Torah says Vayomru, and what's not stated? Vayomru. No, not Vayomru lo. No. Read it better. Vayomru is, and they said. I'm in Pasuk 15. Do you have it, Hanana? 15.
Yeah, and it doesn't say.
To whom?
Yeah.
It says Vayomru, and they said. The brothers said, Lu yistemenu Yosef, v'hashev yashiv lanu et kol hara'a asher gamalnu oto. In verse 15 of chapter 50, the brothers say, but the Torah doesn't share with whom. Maybe they're saying to themselves. Lu yistamenu. Now the word lu, I don't know if it's mentioned at all in the Chumash.
We had it once before.
It could be. It had a different meaning here. Here I think it means, as the Onkelos translates in Aramaic, Lu here means Dilma, Ulai, perhaps. Perhaps Yosef hates us. And what might he do? Vashev Yashiv Lanu, he will revenge to us for all the things we did to him. Wow. Is this an objective feeling or subjective feeling? Huh? Very subjective, isn't it? Okay. So the word lu, which hardly appears in the Torah, and we can really, we can make doubts what exactly it means. Let's say that means perhaps. Now, nikama, revenge. Is revenge good? Or is revenge not good? There is a positive revenge and there's a negative revenge. When we talked about yesterday the revenge of Pinchas, zealousy of Pinchas, when he saw a leader of the tribe of Shimon having relations with a princess, he did zealousy and he killed both of them. Sometimes you raise the honor of God in the world. Okay? Especially when you deal with if people that are doing bad to the Jewish people, let's say our enemies, idolaters, certainly the revenge would be good, we think, and is important. Gentlemen, here the brothers may have suspicion that Yosef wants to get back at them. Now, is that proper?
No.
Who told you it's not proper? Let me ask you something. Did the brothers fail in doing what they were doing to the Yosef? Did they misunderstand him? That's what we've been explaining. They misunderstood. And they almost killed him. Instead of being fearful of revenge, maybe they should say, we're in your hands. Whatever you think you should do to us, that would be really the most courageous statement to say. We're deserving of it. God forbid to make a mistake and almost kill your own brother is a terrible thing. So here they're saying Lu Yistumenu. Could be that he hates us and wants to get back to us. Why are they saying it now? Why now?
Because
The father's passed away. So what?
Yosef
His
was
father's like
not.
kinds of protection for
Oh, very good. The father's alive. God forbid, they're not going to start. Yosef would not start trouble right now with his brothers. My dear friends, I want to share with you two midrashim that I think will exemplify how there could be yet a further misunderstanding. Let me just see if I can find the two midrashim right here. Okay, now that Aaron is here, we can begin. Sing the two midrashim. Shalom Aleichem, Aaron. 1 second, gentlemen.
My Chumash shows that the first time that we see the word lo is actually in the purchase of the Machpelah.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Lu is like
You has a different meaning today. Lu is halavai. Halavai that it would be this way. Usually the word lu.
it's like the same as Ulai.
Okay, now it's ulai. Now it's ulai. Now it's ulai. Okay, just 1 second. I thought I saw. This is interesting. Would you please, everyone, open up, read the next pasuk. Pasuk Tet Zayin. David Adler, read it aloud. Vayitzavu.
ויצוו אל יוסף לאמור אביך ציווה לפני מותו לאמור כה תאמרו ליוסף אנא שא לה פשעה אחיך והטעתם כי רעה גמלוך ואתה שנא לפשע עבדי אלוקי אביך ויבך יוסף בית רבו.
Very dramatic. Very dramatic. What do they command to Yosef saying in verse 16, gentlemen? Oh, I can't believe this. What do they command to Yosef?
They command Yosef that their father Yaakov Vinu has ordered him. I would say him.
Go ahead. What has he ordered?
He forgive his brothers for all.
Abba Yaakov Avinu, before he passed away, what did he do?
He ordered Yosef not to hit the brothers for whatever they've done.
Very good. And that you must give us what? Slicha, right?
Yeah.
To bear our sins for this. Excellent. And what is the reaction of Yosef?
He cried.
He cried. He cried.
He cried because he knew that it was never said by Yaakov Vinu.
He cried because what?
He knew that Yaakov Vinu never said.
If Yaakov would have said this, who would have he told?
Yosef.
And when would have he told him? When would be a good time?
When he was asked to visit him.
Right now, the last period of time. Who did Yaakov speak with in his last
Yosef.
days before he passed away?
Yosef.
So if it was true, then something so important, so essential, it's clear that he would have said it to Yosef. It would have been clear. But we don't see that, do we?
No.
Did the brothers tell the truth? Is the question we're asking. I can't believe that. I thought I saw two midrashim in my father-in-law's sefer. I don't see it now. So everything's for the good. Gentlemen, I don't have the two midrashim, but the two famous midrashim that Yosef did something, and the brothers interpreted it one way, but Yosef's intentions were otherwise. One midrash says that when they came to Marat Machpelah and they buried their father, afterward they sat down to have a meal, and Yosef was deliberating if he should or not. I think Rashi's paraphrasing one of the two midrashim. Should he or not sit at the head of the table? What is his deliberation, Yosef? On the one hand, Yosef is like a king. He deserves to sit in a royal way. But on the other hand, he knows that who received a special bracha, blessing, talent of royalty, who will be the upcoming king of the Jewish people when we become a nation? Who? Yehuda. Wow, I shouldn't. Maybe it's Yehuda that should be sitting at the head of the table. And on the other hand, there's a halacha, melech, shemachal al kvodo. If a king wants to pardon his honor, kvodo eino machul. The Talmud says, brought in the Rambam, the laws of kings. A king that wants to give up his honor, he's not allowed to. Okay, let's say I'm the king and we're sitting at a meal and I decide to sit next to you. I'm not allowed to do that. Because it's not his honor, it's the honor of God. The king of Israel mirrors, represents, manifests something divine. So he's debating what to do. Do you know how we solve the problem? Anyone have an idea? Anyone a problem solver? A circle. That's a nice answer. I didn't think about that. No one's at the head. That's not a good answer. It's not enough of a solution. Anyone have an answer?
Well, a table has two ends.
What, sir?
A table has two ends.
That's like interesting. Yeah, but it has to show that one is the leader.
Supposed to get I don't know, an honor.
It's a partial answer. It's two tries. Anyone have another answer? He put up two tables. Yehuda sat at the head of one of the tables, and Yosef sat at the other. Why did he do it?
One, to be a future king. And
Why did he do it? He wanted to show what? Kavod to Yehuda. And at the same time, not subtract or take away the kavod that he has for himself, as like a king who said. How did the brothers interpret this? Yosef's not sitting with us at the same table? Uh-oh. Right after Abba is buried in Hebron, Marat HaMachpelah, this is a bad sign. He has a big family. He has he has Menachem and Ephraim and their wives and so on, and servants, and his legislative aides, and his minister of commerce and minister of transportation that have come on the long hoe. This is one of two midrashim. I forgot the second midrash. They started seeing behavior that they interpreted, like you said before, subjectively, in a way that they're beginning to sense, we're in trouble. Now we're in trouble. That's Vayiru, what they saw. Subjective distance between Yosef and them. And they said, we're in trouble. Did we see anywhere before this that Yaakov said to Yosef, I want you to give slicha to your brothers for throwing you into the pit? Did we ever see that mentioned? No. And if it was told to Yosef, why didn't the Torah share this with us? My dear friends, look at Rashi on Pasuk Tet Zayin, verse 16. Avicha tziva. By the way, first look at the word Vayitzavu el Yosef lemor, the opening of the Pasuk. Give me a good translation. Vayitzavu, and they commanded to Yosef, saying, now look at me. Are they en route to the palace to speak with him? No. Vayitzavu el Yosef. What do you think it means? They're sending someone else. They don't want to have a collision right here, and they can't face up to their brother. We're going to do it through a shlichim. Very good. That's how some of the commentaries explain. Rabbeinu Saadia Gaon, Rashbam, and others explain that they are sending someone with this message. And then on the Rashi, Avicha Tziva, Rashi says, do you see the bottom words? I put it up on the board as well. Shinu b'davar mipnei hashalom. Shinu b'davar mipnei hashalom. Little translation, but there's a quote of our sages in a Talmudic statement. Yevamot. Let me see whose Hebrew is good. Okay, Menachem Pesach. Shinu, the verb lishanot. Very good. Shinu b'davar, they changed. B'davar in this. in the word, in this matter, in this subject, mipnei shalom,
In order for peace.
in order to make for the sake of peace. Shinu is written here, and which word is not written here? They changed, you said.
Didn't lie, didn't change. No shake.
They didn't, the Torah, Rashi, in the name of our sages, doesn't write they lied, but they
Change.
changed their words, which is a cover for not saying the full truth. Yes?
Yes.
That's Rashi. So too, Ramban, Nachmanides. I want to share with you what Ramban says. Ramban is brought earlier, 5 chapters earlier, in chapter 45. And, Ken. Now I saw the two Midrashim. Ken. Okay, I'm not going to get back into that. I wanted to read you Ramban, Nachmanides. Ramban says the following. It appears to me, you don't have it in front of you, this is Nachmanides in chapter 45, 5 chapters. It appears to me that Yaakov was never told his entire life that the brothers sold Yosef. What did Yaakov think? He thought that, he went astray in the field somewhere, and the ones that found him, remember initially what was brought to Yaakov, that he said, Toraf Yosef, what was brought to him?
Colorful, the striped coat.
His coat filled with blood. He thought he was killed by a wild animal. Now, he finds out 17 years later that he's alive. Okay? What do you think Yaakov thought?
He survived?
Okay. He survived the attack. He was sold, and he came down to Mitzrayim as a servant. That's what he thought. Okay? Now, the brothers had a vested interest in not sharing this event with their father. Why should we say to Abba that we sinned? What's one of the reasons they didn't tell Abba the full truth? Why not? What might Abba do to his sons when he finds out that they treated him this way?
Really bless them.
Not bless them. Do, God forbid, send them away. Curse them, God forbid, curse their action, and so on. Okay? Now, Yosef also is such a tzaddik, doesn't want to tell Abba what happened. This explains what we tried to suggest in this week of study, that Yosef did not live in Goshen. He had an interest to remain in the palace in the capital area of Mitzrayim and meet as least as possible with his Abba to prevent interrogation, investigation of what really happened. Therefore, the text here says that they commanded, sending a shaliach saying, your father commanded us before his death. He commanded before his death that you should, come on. Had Yaakov known about the event, it would have been worthy that he would say this, give slicha, I'm not mad at you, but nowhere do we see this. And therefore they made it up. They made this up from their hearts. That's the language of the Ramban. They made it, Lo hugad Yaakov kol yamav. All of his days, it was never told to Yaakov about this event. Okay. We have Rashi and we have Ramban telling us that this story is the word fabricated? Is that the proper word? This story that Abba is commanding you that you should give us slicha, pardon us, is a fabricated story. Okay. Rashi and Ramban. What does Rashi and Ramban not say, though? Think, analyze. They're both saying that the story is fabricated. It's not true. It's a fake story. But what do Rashi and Ramban, as classic commentators, do not deal with?
The two?
They both say that this is not true. What, however, do Rashi and Ramban not deal with in this matter?
The brothers didn't were lying.
There's a beautiful word in Chazal that Rashi quoted, they changed, which is fabricating the story. But what are Rashi and Ramban not dealing with when they're commentating in this way?
How Joseph act again.
Yosef cried here. We see his reaction. What are Rashi and Ramban not dealing with? They're saying that the brothers made up this story.
Why they send a shaliach?
I think it's obvious why they're sending a shaliach. They don't want to face their brother. They're hiding the truth here. But what are Rashi and Ramban not dealing with?
The tshuva.
No.
The lie.
Are you allowed to do this? Is it mutar? Is it permitted to hide the truth? To fabricate the story? Are you allowed to do such a thing? After the brothers realize that they are guilty, and it's obvious they felt they're guilty, okay? And now they have a fear. Yaakov has passed away, their father, and now they still have some suspicion that perhaps what will Yosef do to them? No. Yosef might do to them what?
Kill them, expel them.
Expel them, kill them, God forbid, do something terrible. You might have thought that such great righteous people like the brothers of Yosef, they should accept upon themselves judgment. We have an attribute called Kabbalat Adin. We have to face up to facts of life and accept the judgment. And maybe they should accept any punishment that will be imposed upon them. Okay? Nechama Leibovich, right? That's a great woman scholar. We have her book, Studies in Breshit Shemot, on the bottom there. One of the greatest educators in Chumash Tanakh in the former generation. My father-in-law studied by her as well. Many, many great rabbis and teachers studied by her. She brings this in her article here. Maybe the brothers should have accepted the din, okay? And prevented from speaking sheker. What is the Torah saying? I think it's Vayikra 19, quote, Midivar sheker tirchak. Repeat those three words. What does that mean, Aaron? Midivar sheker tirchak. Do you remember the meaning? Midivar sheker.
Lies, people distance from each
Right, you should distance yourself from speaking divar sheker. There's a mitzvah in the Torah. Mi divar sheker tirchak. So we have here an ethical question. Okay? And with this ethical question, maybe they should have spoken the truth, distanced themselves from telling a lie, or avak sheker. Right? You know, there's a prohibition of speaking Lashon Hara. There's the dust of Lashon Hara. Something that's not 100% Lashon Hara, but something is similar to it. Maybe here also. My dear friends, I want to share with you two sources in our sages. Famous Midrash Rabbah. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer. You've heard of the great Rashbag Rabbi? He was also Rabban. He was a Nasi in the line of generations from Hillel, one of the princes of Israel during Roman times, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. He says, and it's quoted in the book called Bereshit Rabbah, Gadol HaShalom. Great is the attribute of peace. Peace. Sha'af HaShvatim Dibru Dvarim Biduyim. That even the tribes spoke fake news, fake, made up, fabricated story. Bishvil latil shalom ben Yosef lashvatim. In order that there be peace between Yosef and his brothers, the heads of tribes spoke fabricated matters. And what is the source? What we're learning now. Vayitzavu Yosef lemor avicha tziva. Your father commanded. The Midrash rhetorically asks, commanded? Heichan tziva? Where did he command this? Lo matzinu shetziva. Rabban Shimon says, baloney. We didn't find that Yaakov commanded what? Yosef to give pardoning to the brother. We never found that. Therefore, the conclusion of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is, for the sake of peace, you can change or prevent yourself from telling the truth. That's one source. Who had a question here? Mr. Asher?
I'm surprised they didn't bring up the story of Avraham Avinu and Sarah Imeinu.
That what? Oh,
Because that is the classic
okay.
example of Shalom.
Yafa. But that's one person. Maybe here we're talking about 11.
Right. However,
So maybe that's a difference.
Yeah, and when I see, for example, with the story of Avraham Avinu and Sarah Imeinu, Hashem was the one who changed the story of who is laughing at whom.
Right.
And
that's
here,
to give honor. To give honor.
Give honor, and the main is Shalom Bayit.
Okay.
So
that's an interesting question and a support for a Shalom Bayit. Or there's the danger. You're saying there's a danger?
Right here.
And maybe there's a danger here also.
Right, because like if someone else could have said something on behalf of the brother, for the Shalom Bayit, that's understandable. But here, the accusers are themselves making up the story, and which is, I find it very negative of Shalom Bayit.
Yet, in spite of the fact that 11 are making up the story, it's considered a good thing. The question is it mutar or a mitzvah? Here, the language of the Midrash is gadol hashalom. Great is peace so much that even if you have to not tell the truth to create peace, it's okay. It's like good advice. Eitzah tova. There's a different Midrash that Nechama brings in the Gemara in Masechet Yevamot. I want to share it with you. Amar Rabbi Ila Mishum Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Ila is saying this in the name of Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon. Mutar lo le'adam lishanot bidvar shalom. Mutar. What does mutar mean? It's permitted. So it's not only a good advice, it's permitted to change the truth to make shalom. Rabbi Natan, do you know that yesterday I think was the Yortzeit date of Rabbi Natan, the student of Rabbi Nachman. Okay, you have a son called Nachman from Breslov? Almost, right? Okay. Steve has a son who enjoys apparently Nachman of Breslov at the age of 3, and he calls himself, my name is Nachman Breslov. He calls himself, I asked what his name was. He says, my name is Nachman Breslov. That's true. Interesting. So Rabbi Natan, Atana, not the Rabbi Nachman of the student of Rabbi Nachman, he says differently. It's not just mutar, it is a mitzvah, a commandment. Okay? Not only is it permitted to fabricate something for the sake of peace, but it's a mitzvah. And the source they bring, when Shmuel the prophet, who's en route to anoint a son of Yishai, and is afraid that perhaps Shaul, King Saul, will find out and kill him. So he says, make up a story. You're going to Beit Lechem not to anoint a king, but you're going there to make a sacrificial party. And there, it's God telling him, and therefore he learns for it's a mitzvah. Very interesting. My dear friends, the children of Yaakov here are making up a story. They're not commanded by God. They're afraid that maybe that they're going to be in trouble. They're going to be in trouble here. And I want to share with you, even though it's God telling Shmuel what to do, here I want to say what he says. It could very well be that there's a fear of death, pikuach nefesh. You know, sometimes the truth has to be put aside because of values that are paramount above truth, and that is life. Okay? Now that the brothers of Yosef recognize their guilt, and they thought right now that maybe death could be coming to them, maybe that's what Yosef wants to do with them, and therefore we have what you mentioned, the term a sakanat nefashot, a matter of danger here. Therefore they made up the story from their hearts, and they said whatever they can say in order to save their lives. And therefore the matter of truth is very important. Don't misunderstand, it's very, very important. However, our sages see here that the actions of our tribes are okay in order to save their lives. And therefore there's no contradiction to the element of truth. Now, all this said to us, how did Yosef react? Vayef Yosef bedabram elav. He's crying. Isn't he crying? And after he cries, does he say something else? Huh? What is he crying about? How do you interpret the crying of Yosef? Okay? How do you interpret the crying of Yosef? Could you interpret in several ways?
Yes.
Give me one way of interpreting what is the meaning of Yosef crying. Who has an idea on this side of the table there? Let's give you two a chance to speak.
Maybe he understand that his brother right now, they have did their tikkun, and that's why they are fear. So,
They did a tikkun, and in other words, the brothers are telling the truth. He thinks the brothers are telling the truth, and really Abba knew about it, and no one told him. Is that what you're saying? Maybe he's crying on the fact that now he knows that his father knew about the sale. And this is what he wanted to hide from his father. So maybe he's crying about the pain. Oh, yoy. Abba Yaakov Avinu knew about the sale that I was sold by my brothers. That could be one word. Or now, what could be another reason of his crying? What? Yes.
Distance between
Oh,
brothers.
very good. In other words, right now, these shlichim, these messengers, sharing with Yosef what Abba commanded, is now reminding him, let's go back to these memories of more than, 17, and now the famine has ended. We're talking about how many years have passed already?
17.
17 years have passed, and he was sold years before. What is that, 34 years? The event that happened, was it 34 years ago? I think so.
So then more.
17 plus 17.
He left the house at 17, and there were many years in between.
Right. So tens of years have passed. And now, what's going on the mind of Yosef? All the torturing, all the pain that he passed. And now he's probably thinking, well, how much pain my father incurred for all these years. I mean, maybe he's crying for that. Or could he be crying for something else? And maybe that's what you mentioned, but I didn't get it. What do you want to say?
I had a different perspective, but I would say maybe he's crying because he was in a position where perhaps he also didn't know what to do, really, what action to take. And maybe he saw it almost as also a divine inspiration of sorts, that his brothers were the ones to come to him and to sort of break burst the bubble, and to say, your father commanded, or our father commanded us to tell you, blah, blah, blah. And he didn't have to be the one to confront them with something. He saw it rather as a moment of, okay, now it's my opportunity to again affirm to them, this is, I believe in Hashem, and everything that has happened for good, has happened for a reason. I'm here. But
now that he hears that his father commanded to give slicha, and look at the hard words, sana pesh, give slicha for the crime of your brothers, and that their sin is so great, that they did so bad to you, clear them up. That means, what is going through the mind of Yosef hearing this?
How does he have to deal with
that if he doesn't give them slicha, what are his brothers suspecting? Why if it's true that the father commanded for me to forget their crime and give them slicha for that crime, why are they telling me now? Because what are they suspecting? That I am going to do what? I'm going to take revenge to them. How do you think, if Yosef has no real feelings to do revenge, how do you feel now that your brothers think of it, you're going to do revenge to them?
thought so little of him that he saw.
I've been taking care of them for all these years, feeding them and clothing them. I'm going to take revenge for them? Do you think, could that be that he's crying because of that? I've been helping them all my life right now, the last decades of life. Okay?
I'm also thinking otherwise. Like, at first, his brothers, whom he really loved them, sold him off to the people or the Midianites. And after that, he's imagining that they have been lying to my father, that I was dead or whatever happened to me. And on top of that, now they're lying again. They have been lying all these years, and even then they don't want to do.
Yeah, but remember, the brothers didn't know what happened to him in the end. They know they didn't find him in the pit.
I understand. However, the point is they've been lying to him about.
No, they're not exposing the truth. They're not
Exactly.
lying. And they thought that it would be for the better for the Abba not to suffer to hear about the story. But now that Yosef hears that Abba commanded, they told Abba the story. Well, that's Bechlal, agony. Well, I was hoping Abba didn't know the story. And now that Abba's commanding me to forgive them, that means they're afraid. They're afraid that I'm going to do something bad to them. Gentlemen, do you remember that the brothers, what are they asking themselves to be? Pasuk Yud Chet. Very good. Vayilchu gamechav. Now they arrive. After the messengers told them, Vayipelu lefanav, they fall on the floor before Yosef. Vayomru, Hinenu lecha la'avadim. They consider themselves and offering themselves to be servants. Because if the crying of Yosef even represents brotherhood, and really Yosef has no intention to do bad to them, do you know what they still require? What do the brothers still require? Forgiveness. Kapara. Kapara, atonement. Therefore, they're falling on the floor. Now, what is the reply of Yosef? Is Yosef, let's read his reaction. Is he ready to do revenge to them or punish them in a proper way? Let's read the next pasuk. Vayomer aleihem Yosef in verse Yud Tet 19. Yosef says to them, to the brothers, Al tira'u, have no fear. Ki atachat Elokim ani. Look, you did the wrong thing. You did a terrible thing. But remember, what was the result of your wrong actions?
I became the viceroy.
I'm here. I'm supporting. I supported Abba. I supported my brothers. Everything was for the good. Can I, a human being, can I right now judge you? Am I God to judge you? You did something bad. God manipulated the event that something great would happen. It was so great. Hatachat Elokim ani? Am I, instead of God, to be judging? And he repeats what he says in a different way. In verse 20, Ve'atem, and you, chashaftem alai ra'ah. You thought about me what? I'm in Pasuk 20. You thought about me what? Ra'ah. Elokim, I'm adding but, God, chashava, litova. Leman, for what reason? Aso, follow the Hebrew, kayom hazeh lachayot amrav. Gentlemen, God manipulated these events so that I can support the families, the Yaakov Avinu and family, my brothers and their family. And therefore he continues to say in verse 21, Vi'ata, and now, al tiro, a second time. He senses that his brothers are in fear. Don't be afraid. Anochi achalkel etchem ve'tabchem. I'm going to continue to support you. Okay? So you see here words of pacification, words of support, words of love. Vayinachem otam. Have you heard of that word? Vayinachem, linnachem. You know any people with the name Nachman or Menachem? You know, right? So what is their nature? Of their neshama, of their soul? To provide comfort, consolation. Thank you. Vayinachem otam, vayidaber el libam. Gentlemen, clearly these last words between Yosef and his brothers, we see that peace, shalom has been made. Pius, their, how shall we call pios? They are pacified, one to the other. Is it clear to us that the brothers right now are are they clearly comforted? Are they completely persuaded that no punishment faces them in the future? We really never will know the answer to this question, but maybe we can be exact and precise. Are they fully comforted or not? Look at the last words of the brothers, Pasuk 21. It says, Vayinachem otam, and he comforted them. Vayidaber al libam. Excuse me. He comforted them. And then it says that he spoke to them on their hearts. If they were fully comforted, would there be need to speak on their hearts? Do you understand the question? We don't understand, why is the Torah saying that he spoke on, if it would said he spoke into their hearts and then they were comforted. I understand that was used to pacify them, to comfort them, to make peace. But it says that he comforted them. But then it says he had to continue speaking on their hearts. What does this suggest? That they were really never fully comforted. We don't read about any punishment, God forbid. We do read that Yosef continues to live and lead in Mitzrayim until what ripe old age? 110 years old. And he began his ruling at the age of 30. That means he ruled over Mitzrayim 80 years. Never ever do we see in the Tanakh a ruling of the duration of 80 years. Wow, what success he had. I want to share with you this ending paragraph of my dear father, Rabbi Hortz, what he says here. He says that it's hard to believe that really Yosef cleared the conscience of his brothers regarding that they sold him. Nachon, we don't hear of any punishment. In fact, here stated here in the Torah. Okay, we have a misoret, a tradition in our sages, and this misoret, it's not so clear how do we understand this. The misoret, the tradition says that 10 righteous of the wisest of Israel became martyrs. Martyrs, you know what a martyr means? Their lives were taken away. Do you understand? Have you ever heard of this concept before? The famous 10 martyrs of Israel? Who are we talking about? Rabbi Akiva's time. They were murdered and killed by the Romans. Talking about post-temple period number 2. And like you said, David, correctly, was Rabbi Akiva. They were tortured, burnt, pained with agony. We mention it in the Slichot before Rosh Hashanah. We mention it when we read the Avodah of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. The 10 famous martyrs, including Rabbi Akiva, that their lives were given up only because they were Jewish and they wanted to teach Torah. The Talmud says, the Midrash says, that these 10 that were murdered were kapara for the sin of the sale of Yosef. What do you understand? If this was the kapara for the sale of these 10 brothers, 10? Why not 11? Binyamin wasn't present. These 10 are bringing kapara for the 10 brothers that sold them. That means that they were not really fully atoned for. Okay? These sanctifiers of God's name are known as Asara Harugei Malchut, the 10 martyrs of the Jewish people that gave up their lives. So we can see here that if in fact the brothers were not punished, but later on in history, we see 10 of the greatest scholars, they are bringing kapara. These brothers still require atonement. cleansing, spiritual cleansing. That's what kapara is. Can we explain, as Rashi brings the name of Chazal, I forgot where, that kapara is like the cleansing, the scrubbing, the removal of the spiritual pollution. So it's hard for us to understand, but this is what Chazal said, and today we remember them often in many times. Let's summarize what we have here. Right now, the Hebrews are growing in number. It could very well be outside the city of Goshen. Yaakov Avinu passes away. A national, famous funeral is made. It was probably on local television, maybe in international television. Everyone knows because we came through the Eretz Canaan. We came through the Jordan River on the other side. The nations on the other side. Everyone knows about Yaakov being buried. It's famous. And now the children come back to live here. The future is not clear. We're in the Galut. It's darkness. Abba has died. We are told that Yosef, his last words, his last will and testimony, is similar to his father. Let's see in verse 24. Vayomer Yosef elachav anochi met. I'm about to die. Pakod yifkod etchem. I'm sorry, skip the word. Ve'elokim pakod yifkod etchem. God will. Now the word remember here, you're right, it's true that lifkod means to remember, but the word lifkod also means the redemption, the geula, the redemption of the Jewish people in Mitzrayim. When the time comes, that word will be used. That is the word of redemption. Pakod yifkod etchem. Certainly God will redeem you. Ve'ela etchem min haaretz hazot, and bring you up from this land. To where? To where? El haaretz asher nishba l'Avram Yitzchak u'Yaakov. Yosef does not forget the central message. Our home is in the land of Canaan, the same land that God has swore equally to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Because of the importance of Eretz Yisrael, he swears his brothers. Pasuk Kafei, verse 25. Vayashba Yosef et bnei Yisrael. This is the first time maybe we're saying the term bnei Yisrael. Maybe we started earlier. The sons of Jacob, the sons of Israel, but the lofty name, to come back to the land of Israel. And what is the content of the oath? Pakod yifkod elokim etchem. God surely will redeem you. He'll bring you the redemption. Va'alitem et atzmotai mize. You must bring up my bones from this. From this meaning, from here, from the land of Mitzrayim. Vayamot Yosef, he does die, ben me'av ve'eser shanim. Vayachantu oto, he's embalmed. Vayisem ba'aron b'Mitzrayim, and he's left or placed in a coffin in Mitzrayim. Gentlemen, why isn't he brought back right away to the land of Israel? Do you have an idea? This is probably a political matter that he's what? The leader of Mitzrayim. He's going to be buried right now. Where? In the land of Canaan. Ken, Alter Yaakov ben Zev, thank you. It's be very, very hard, very difficult insult. And therefore, he remains in a coffin in Mitzrayim until when we come out of Egypt. Moshe Rabbeinu makes sure that the bones of Yosef are brought with the Jewish people coming back. And where do we know that he is buried? In Shechem. Yosef was given an additional portion. We can explain the Shechem Echad is not only an additional portion, but the city of Shechem. Okay, 60 kilometers north of us approximately. And he's buried there in the field that Yaakov bought, right? The title, the purchase is listed clearly in the Torah. It belongs to the Jewish people. And that's where he's buried. I visited the kever of Yosef HaTzadik several times during the course of my life. Once or twice at least before the Oslo Accords, I visited Shechem. There used to be a yeshiva in the area of the kever. It was made there was a building there, very idealistic people living in the Shomron would study in that yeshiva. And then the unfortunate Oslo Accord was made, and we made clear agreements that we would be given the right to visit the burial site of Yosef HaTzadik, which is so holy. And I don't have to tell you, remind me to continue my pango. I don't have to tell you how many times the Arab terrorists living in the area have burnt. Lack of respect, terrible hatred. The tomb on the outside is made out of stone. It's been burnt several times, and now the Jewish people or the state of Israel have redone it to take off all the ashes and all the darkness and so on and so forth. Today, now in the last months, almost monthly, there's a group that gets military permission, and they leave some of the towns in the Shomron like Itamar or Yitzhar, or some buses even leave. David Bradley went one night, a week ago, 2 weeks ago on Rosh Chodesh or something like that, on Chanukah. There are buses made from Yerushalayim, but they go at 12, 1 o'clock at night, and they go in with bulletproof buses, with armored vehicles of the Army of Israel. Unfortunately, that's the situation, because the people, the Arabs living in Shechem, they're not too friendly, to say the least. Again, I'm saying that as a euphemism. And we hope, in God willing, that we'll get the opportunity to go visit Yosef's tomb and pray by there. It's a great merit to get close to Hashem. We don't pray to him. Of course, we pray to Hashem in his merit. Not many individuals receive the title Yosef HaTzadik. He did. And B'ezrat Hashem, hopefully we'll get to visit there. If until now we still have to go with armored carriers, God willing, there'll be more and more redemption of the Jewish people, and the local Arabs will not hate us, but they'll honor us, and then we'll be able to have more free ways of getting there. Amen. Ken Yiratzon.